Hey y'all, thank you for joining me today. I've got some good news. I've been working on a prototype, but before I introduce the prototype, I gotta give a little bit of background, my ideology behind it. All right, and it starts with KDF. KDF is Kunsteffekt in the art of fighting, or the fighting arts, or however you want to translate that. And I think I've understood finally their main goal in to spread the arts, and how it was really meant to be done, right? So I'm gonna go through some progression here. Here you'll see a sword with some hand protection on it, right? And it's not that long. You can see how much shorter it was compared to the later period sword. But there's absolutely minimal hand protection here. Right? The cross guard is to protect, this much of your fingers and this much of your hand. The rest of everything is exposed, and it's not ideal. Plus, it's a lot shorter, right? So we want to think about how do we keep our hands safe, right? That's part of the prototype idea and part of the understanding of the art. Here you can tell that they've made an adjustment to crossguard by adding this piece here. This piece here is not really sure what it's called, but it flares out from all the vicious impacts that we have to deal with. And surprisingly, the angle hasn't changed much this way, right? So our hands can still get hit here and here, but this way, when shots come down, it doesn't. The angle changes a little bit, right? So your hands are a little safer, but we still deal with hand injuries, and the brutality of the sport, bangs up these and flares them out, and they're all, not great. They get sharp, bird metal and everything. And we gotta file them down, and it's a mess. Even later period swords, you can tell that they started giving this some more consideration. All right, instead of the flared out bits that we have here, we've got a ring that actually protects that part of the sword. Your hand goes in it. You can hold it with two hands like a long sword, right? It's not ideal. The worst part about this is it only helps protect the one side of your hand and not really much the other. I mean, if you look at the difference here, like who would have thought that one side was better than the other in terms of protection? So that got me thinking, like, how do we change things to keep our hands safe and to still validate the arts, right? And I got to looking at later period saber manuals. And they've got this giant ladle, right? The ladle actually has two holes in it, so it's not very effective. So they turned it into a single stick. We all know that these are very fast and very safe, and there's no way that a shot's coming through here to hurt your hand, right? But there's this giant gap right here. The gap is like a thrust could come in. You've got no padding back here. There's just, it's a ladle, right? Like, drink out of it, whatever. So I got to thinking, going over one night and was in deep meditation and thinking about what Lichtenhauer actually meant with some of the things he was talking about. And one of the things I've come up with is that the art of fighting isn't just one book. It's all the books. Right? So you got all these books, you put them all together. And they all say basically the same things, right? But we're missing certain contexts, right? Like, one book says this and another book says that, and people argue historically and modernly what they mean. What is more viable, what is less viable, what will keep you safer, and I think I have a solution, which is why I developed this prototype, and I'm estimating that it's going to take close to 15 to 16 years if planning goes well, and if I get the proper permits and everything from my country to allow me to become an inventor and market. I got to go to college again and get a marketing degree, and it's just, That's really what I'm asking for, is I want you to send me to college so I can get a marketing degree again, so I can sell you what you need to protect your hands. But I'm going to give you a little taste. You know, this is non-disclosure agreement. You've all got the paper in the mail. You signed it, I hope. But here's my idea, right? It's pretty complex, right? We've got a lot of different angles here and thermoplastics involved. The main takeaway here, though, is your hand is completely encapsulated, right? So we've got your hands inside of this clear thermoplastic protection. There's no way your hands are getting hit, right? And you can see I can move all of my fingers individually, right? And it's great. You can tell this product here is going to go a long way. All right, we've got engineered laser cut thermoplastic dynamical spheres, conical implementations, semi-articulated thread pitches. That's for multiple reasons I'll get into later in further prototypes. And this is really going to revolutionize MEMA into MEMA, modern European martial arts. This is pushing more towards a sporting context, right? Because you'll see in a moment how I've designed the rest of this weapon to implement safety. You know, it's like we were talking about with these swords, you know, the angles change when things are longer or shorter, or, you know, we'll get into that in a minute. So here I'm going to demonstrate the new weapon prototype. And with the weapon prototype, I had to develop an entire new fencing system. It's groundbreaking. I've taken manuals from all over the world, you know, Lichtenauer, the Kukner, and Capoferro, and Spanish, Destreza, and some other things to keep the art alive. Right? Because if you only focus on one book, the art is incomplete. So you'll notice that this here is fairly flexible, right? And what I'm doing with this prototype is, since the hands are no longer a target because they're protected, you have to whip around the sword of your opponent. And to do that, you need something long and flexible. And historically, they tried this with lances. They tried it with pikes too. They tried it with a few other options that, you know, it actually killed a lot of people. So I'm trying to avoid that. But how a thrust will look, you know, coming into range and a thrust with Capoferro protecting your head and the Kukner stepping and Lichtenauer with your hands above your head, you know, protecting all of your critical angles. It's going to look something like this. So another critical aspect of this new art of a KDF, or all KDF, or all art includes, is I'm using the round of the tip of the sword to protect myself. And so we've got different positions, right? And the entire goal is to protect myself with the round of my week, 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 the round of my week. I hope you enjoyed this evening, the 1st of April, and be a merry fool.